Morning. I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad to see you. Did you know that 25% of Arizona's children live in an environment where there's food insecurity, meaning that they have insufficient nutrition to thrive, be healthy at school, at home, insufficient nutrition to perform. An additional 16% of children are on the borderline of that food insecurity. This represents 41% of the total child population of the state of Arizona. We are the first or leading state in worst food insecurity in the nation, followed by Texas and Alabama, the poorest state in the union. This is according to Feeding America 2012. We have 392,000 households in this condition, with an additional 150,000 households in that 16%. Imagine, if you can, a family, we're going to call them the Pintel family. 3 children, 2 adults. Father's lost his job 2 or 3 weeks ago. He hasn't started his unemployment yet. The family's running short on resources. They're not able to pay the power bill. They did pay the mortgage. They're sitting around the kitchen table. Food stamps haven't come in. When they do come in, they'll be mitigated largely by the unemployment. There won't be much there for the family. There's a food box from the local food bank, but this isn't Christmas. This is not Thanksgiving. This family's food box is going to be composed of canned goods, dried goods, beans, high-carb products, no fresh fruit, no fresh vegetables, maybe canned tuna, but no fresh meat. This is not a nutritious meal. And the question you have to ask yourself, is this something that you want your children to experience? Have you ever experienced a time in your life when your family had to go through this kind of food shortage? It affects the entire family. You'd be surprised to learn that middle-class families needing help is on the rise. According to USDA 2009 Food Insecurity Report, it's still increasing. That percentage is going up several percent a year. Government programs, according to the same report, are down 20% in helping people with food assistance, food box programs, pantry programs, emergency service block grant programs. In other words, the help is not forthcoming. And in fact, as we sit here today, Congress is voting to drop it down another 15 to 20%. These programs are in trouble. They've lost a lot of money and a lot of staff and a lot of ability to help the community. Regardless of how we all feel about government assistance programs, we can all agree on one thing, I think, that local community involvement and assistance programs is superior to government funding in many ways. Food banks can better depend, and a new way to deal with them better depending, is to start membership programs in local communities. So food banks are primarily supported by local memberships. Now, I have supervised and managed programs in social services for 31 years with the city of Phoenix, including food banks and food bank pantries and winter overflow programs for the homeless. And I'm currently on the board of CARA, the Pinell County Community Action Program, that has a food bank and provides all of the food and food bank help for Pinell County. Today, I'm here to convince you to consider how important your role could be as a community member in supporting contributory programs like public broadcasting does on a large-scale basis, where their monthly contribution of $5 or $10 pledged on a year basis or an annual basis is a way to stabilize these programs. Programs do not have the stability they need to be able to serve the community at this time, and they could. In all communities, recent events in the economy have impacted on how the community is serviced. The State of States report in 2011 says that, according to the report, the percentage of people living in poverty has increased by 4% to 17.4%, while food shortages have increased as well. According to Mary Lou Gonzalez, who's the director of CARA, the Community Action Agency for Pinell County, the food stamp programs have become increasingly restrictive, and the demand on the food banks has increased correspondingly, to the point where the only time that there's a lot of food on the shelves is just before Thanksgiving and Christmas. The rest of the season, there are no commodities. There's no honey. There's no peanut butter. You're not finding cheese. You're not finding milk. A lot of the staple fresh fruits and fresh vegetables are not there. Now, the most at-risk population that we have is children. Dr. John Cook in 2008 in the USDA report states that research over the last 12 years shows conclusively that food insecurity and hunger are serious threats to children's growth, health, and development, and may even harm young children's brain architecture, may even harm the brain architecture of our children. Other at-risk populations, aging population, those with Alzheimer's as well, disabled, the mentally impaired, home care, predominant, and those in poverty, and that cuts across the entire population. Increasing poverty and unemployment are contributed factors to all of this. And to you and your family, I think we have to bring it down to the individual. How does this affect you? If you became unemployed today, the reports say that the average family has only 3 weeks of buffer. The average middle-class family has 3 weeks of buffer before you start getting to the point where you can't pay the rent, you can't pay the bills without income. What would happen to you if you lost your income today? How long would you have? And we have to consider, how would you feel about having the availability of healthy, nutritious food that you helped provide at one point in your life? And this is why it's important to make these kind of contributions, because it's not just your neighbor. It's everybody in your local community that's affected. Let's look at current food bank structures and processes. In most communities, food banks are supplied by grocery stores. Donations are made at local grocers or outlets that are given to the food banks. The food bank distributes them at distribution centers. This could be through trucks delivered to neighborhoods. It could be through outreach workers from social service programs that deliver into homes for shut-ins or blind or impaired. At that point, the family or the client just received the food. They contribute in their own way, generally through volunteerism, and understand that food banks receive only about 2.5% of their operating budget by fiscal contributions from community members. The rest of it is through volunteerism and through food donations. Food banks provide a physical structure for the community. They provide stability to families in need, and they give them a way to feed their children. If your family welfare was threatened, imagine or visualize how important that structure could be to have. So, in summary, we've examined the issue of food insecurity, and we've looked at the role of food bank programs and looked at membership concepts. I encourage you strongly to join in your local food bank and become involved with the membership, even if it's only $2 or $5 a month. Relatively small amounts accomplish a lot. We're talking about hundreds or thousands of members of the community. Food bank purchasing costs are assisted because of grocery stores. They will discount up to 20% on products and more. It's Charles Dickens who presented both these art scenarios. Please, sir, I want some more. Oliver Twist. What does he want some more? Gruel. Okay? Tiny Tim from A Christmas Carol. And his Christmas dinner, when Ebenezer Scrooge brings the prize-winning turkey to the family at the end. Real life is not like this most of the time. These two extremes. It's usually in the middle. However, sometimes function does follow art. And we need to understand that these lead us to contemplate how deep the need is to nurture our families and to provide for them. And it is biologically and socially seared into our consciousness as a people. It's what we do for our own family and friends and neighbors that defines what we really stand for. So I'm asking you to please stand for a reasonable and affordable way of providing food for everyone in your community. God bless us, everyone. Thank you.